Hey, it's episode 318, 4 tips for better focus.
You're going to want to stick around to the end on this one, guys. Everybody, welcome back to the Prime Podcast. I, of course, am your host, Kermit the Frog, Dr. Skip Wyss. I'm with my wife, Julie Wyss. Sorry,
I'm glad I didn't have a Kermit the Frog when we were doing the remodel.
Well,
that would have been helpful.
Well, my voice decided to take a vacation on Monday.
Maybe it's asbestos.
And I think I can work for a 1-900 company.
I didn't know that you took up smoking.
I'd be getting a lot of calls from Cell Block D.
No.
All right.
I'm excited. Today we're talking about better focus, and today's the first day of spring.
Mm-hmm.
However, we had our snowstorm.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this time of year, people start to shift, or they're getting ready for summer. And then we have like weather like this, or it's not sunny. It really shifts us back, and it can really, really start to mess with people. And so we can talk about their emotional stability, but I think it really starts to put a damper on how they feel and how they function.
Well, I think number one is it has to do with the time change.
Yeah, absolutely.
When we lose an hour of sleep, especially here in the Midwest, there's only a few states that don't practice daylight savings time. That heart attacks go up by 60% on that day. Deaths go up by 30%. It's crazy. And it's because this massive change in time,
right,
which then changes sleep schedules. But I think that is a big one right off the bat. This is the springtime of year, right?
Mm-hmm.
And anxiety, focus, all of this goes crazy, especially with ADD, ADHD kids and autism. But let's talk a little bit about that time change in sleep.
Yeah, so I mean, sleep is, man, if there could only be one thing that you could improve that could give you so many benefits, or like if you're struggling in your life, there's one thing that you could do, it would be to get your sleep on track.
Drastically.
And this isn't just like the act of going to sleep. I mean, we talk about this a lot, but it's that important that like getting really good sleep, it's vital.
Yep.
And when we don't get our sleep, it's literally cutting life off of our years.
It absolutely does.
You know, it's changing. You know, if you knew what that date was going to be on your headstone, you know, by not getting sleep, it's just inching that closer and closer to where you are currently.
Well, sleep coaching, people just actually hiring coaches to teach them how to sleep better.
I don't know, but I'm just like, in my head, I see that as somebody like next to my bed and like, okay, now go to sleep.
That would drive you nuts.
I don't.
Unless they're touching your back, and even then that drives you nuts.
You know, but if you would start to unpack what that means,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it's just somebody telling you, okay, you just need to go to bed earlier.
Mm-hmm.
You just need to do, unplug from your phone and your TV. And it's the same things that we're telling our patients and we're telling our audience every week. But sometimes we just need to hear it from somebody else. It's the same advice of kids don't like when you as the parent tells you what that is. But if somebody else tells them, then it's okay.
Well, there's this adage. It's a very interesting thing for improving sleep. It's called 10-2-1. Mm-hmm. So no caffeine 10 hours before you go to bed. No food 2 hours before you go to bed, and no electronics 1 hour before you go to bed. Because the blue light keeps you awake.
Absolutely.
The blue light resets your brain. It changes the adenosine. It changes the melatonin production, all of it. And there's been study after study that has come out in the last 20 years on this whole concept. But I think just those basic things right off the bat to improve your sleep. And sleep time, you want to have between 7 to 8.5 hours of sleep a night. Ideal sleep temperature, there's a massive science behind this too. It's 65 degrees in your bedroom. And some of these guys like Gary Brecka, David Asprey would tell you, these biohackers would tell you that your room needs to be completely pitch black. I don't know if I completely agree with that. I think that if you live in the city, for sure, because it's trying to change some of those sensory things. Me and you do a massive sleep workshop every year on all of this. So we're experts in sleep. We understand it. But as a parent, it's one of the most difficult things is seeing that sleep routine change in your kids.
And I think it's actually understanding how much sleep is important. And it's usually like a, well, my friends don't go to bed that early. I don't care. Like, that's why your friends act like the way that they do.
Friends are little butts.
That's why we have like certain restrictions, and it's not because we want to be mean. It's because ultimately we want you to live to, 100 years old and be healthy and functioning. And as I'm thinking about it, like if you don't know how many hours of sleep that you truly need, comment on this, at the end of the video here, because we can send our sleep guide out, and some of you are going to be like, oh my gosh, I didn't know that my child actually needs 9 to 11 hours.
Yeah, comment more sleep or sleep please, whatever sleep capitalization. We'd be happy
to get that guide out to you, because it does no good of just us knowing how much sleep. And you could use that of, well, so-and-so says, like, it's not just me as your mom saying you need this much sleep. This is actually like the critical needs, and this is what the information shows of how much sleep that your child truly needs.
Yeah, and just go back to episode 317, because we just talked about this in Sleep Secrets with infants, but just go back and re-listen to it because it's going to help you massively. Now, Dr. Julie, I think step number 2, another secret for increasing focus, decreasing that stress, is really good outside exposure, getting outside, getting exercise. What's your thought on that?
Yeah, I mean, exercise is going to be, it is one of those things when you say, like, I'm one with the earth. Well, that is not just something to say. Anytime that you can be out in nature, because typically when you're outside, and that means that you're not in front of a computer, right? So we're getting rid of hopefully that blue light or the electronics. If we're outside in nature, that means that we're probably just not, sitting on our butt, not doing anything. We're being active, which then is, getting us moving, which is really important. But there's so much more to it. And especially like right now, I wouldn't say it to go outside and walk around barefoot, but it's not some like,
it's cold up
here.
It's
because it's cold here, but there is so much information. Like, we can get into quantum physics and energy and all that stuff. But bottom line is that because there's so much chaos in the world, if we can simply stand barefoot on the earth, we can start to be like, become one with it. And when we have all of these other chaotic things that's happening, it's taking away our charge. It'd be the same thing if you think of, if you're this big glass of water, and every time somebody takes something from you, they're taking a sip from your glass. By you standing on the earth, or just at least being outside in nature, it is filling that glass back up. So then you're not a glass half empty type of a person.
Right. And there's other things they can put on their bed. There's grounding mats that plug into the wall if the outlet's actually truly grounded to a source outside, which your house should be, so your house doesn't start on fire when it's struck by lightning. Like those grounding mats do help with the ionization of the earth. Like, that is super important. And also, when you're outside, you're going to literally feed your eyes with sunlight. Get rid of the sunglasses and feed your eyes with sunlight. Don't stare directly at it, but let it feed your retinas early on in the morning. That actually will decrease your stress because it decreases your eye strain. It makes your eyes more healthy. It takes less stress off the inside of your body, which then allows you to better focus on the tasks at hand. One of the most overdiagnosed things is adult onset ADD, ADHD. And the reason why is because your body's not processing the proper vitamins and nutrition in your body. But the other thing too is that if you can't stay focused, there's more to it than your brain just not being able to stay stimulated. You shouldn't have to add a stimulant to your brain to stimulate it. It should be able to stimulate on its own. It should be able to stimulate through vision. It should be able to stimulate through exercise. It should be able to stimulate through proper nutrition.
And I think that's where, like, I get asked it a lot of, gosh, do you think I have ADD, ADHD? Why do you think so many more adults are coming out of the woodwork? And, diagnosis aside, I just look at, okay, well, what is your life actually looking like? Do you have a regular routine, or like, is your plate just too full with too many things? And I think that's where, if we would actually look at, everybody could have that label of ADD, ADHD because of all of our plates being overwhelmed with things. And some of us are just better at being able to adapt and handle those stressors. But those people that, keep piling on and piling on and don't have the sleep to back that up, the good nutrition, the outside, the movement, that's why then those things pop up as ADD, ADHD, and we can't function. We're constantly in a flight and fight mode, and that's where our brain is just very scattered and all over the place.
Well, then it's exhausted, right?
Absolutely.
And your brain needs movement to feed it. It needs glucose and it needs movement. So it needs glucose and sugar. That's its food source. And then it needs the movement to process that energy source to actually get itself moving. Half of the nerves in your spine are for movement that feed your brain, and over 60% of those movement fibers are in your neck. So the movement of your neck is extremely important, and not just forward, doing text neck. It's moving back and forth. It's looking around. Think about it. If you're outside in nature on a walk, or you're playing with your kids, or you're running, you're not just looking in one direction. You're constantly moving your neck back and forth. And that is one of the most important things, is getting that motion back and being able to feed your brain, which then will help with your focus.
And I think because we're just so overstimulated, like if you're thinking that you're I'm gonna take up running and I'm gonna go out and that's how I'm gonna be out in nature, really think about maybe not having the headphones on.
Yeah.
Because again, if we think about this, that we're overstimulated, sometimes just having the quiet is really what we need. So tuning into actually the nature sounds, or like if you're not out in nature, if you're driving in your car, and you're like, oh my gosh, all these things. If you can look for these pockets of that you can give yourself silence and shutting off the outside noise, that's going to be super helpful. So even if you're in your car, of turning the radio off. You can't turn on your kids if you have kids in the car. But of just trying to, okay, what are your controllable things in your environment? And that will help you to get above this anxiety and this constant overwhelm.
Well, there's people that pay for memberships to lay in deprivation pods and sit there and float in water to no sound, very little light, or like an LED light of red, green, or blue, because they're trying to do some sort of light therapy with it. But the deprivation chamber is the key, with no sound. But the thing is that you're trying to decrease the sound so your brain reactivates and can decrease its stress. But nature sounds, not man-made sounds, but nature sounds, water, birds, the wind,
calming.
trees, all of that has a very certain resonance to it that actually calms your body and helps you focus more. And if you've noticed, and there are some music you can play, like there's different colors, different notes, but also classical music actually helps you focus very, very well too. So that's one noise you may want to bring in that will help you study. Or there are certain resonances, like you listen to lo-fi music, there's certain beats that help you, certain frequencies. So those are all things you can put in while still cutting out. And I wouldn't directly be putting them into your ears via earbuds. Have them on a speaker that's outside of your body, maybe
surround, not here.
Yeah. And even there's new glasses that you can buy that Bose makes. Yes, they're a little expensive, but they're not an earbud. They actually have music that plays out of the Bose of the sunglasses, and you can hear your surroundings without it being directly ported into your ear.
Well, I mean, we can talk about the safety and the side effects of constantly putting in those earbuds, of needing that signal going right through your brain, and you think that you're doing all of these good things. And then we're talking about brain chemistry, and that's just like, that's that extra chaos. That's those earbuds taking the water away from you, and depleting your energy.
Well, unwired earbuds messed with the wiring of your brain. They directly do, through Bluetooth. And it's crossing back and forth, trying to constantly communicate. That one, every kid running around with the one AirPod hanging out of their ear, or the construction worker, or the person that's delivering your mail. Like all of those things are destroying you. And that's just not okay to have in your body. Now, I think step 3, or tip number 3, is to really focus in on nutrition. I think really getting out the pro-inflammatories in your diet. I'm not telling you to completely avoid grains, but try to cut them down as much as possible. Try to cut down, Deb, I know you're listening, cut down processed sugar, not your normal sugars from fruit, from vegetables. There's good sugars, honey's out there, like all of that stuff. But really honing in, though, on nutrition. And I think vitamin B is a big one. B vitamins for focus. Do you want to talk a little bit on
And
that?
B vitamins are also calmative.
Yeah.
So lots of times if we have, anxiety or we're just anxious, lots of times we're very limited on those B vitamins. And so
Mm-hmm.
sometimes that's if somebody gets we were sampling like a green drink this morning, but that has the additional vitamins and it's all of a sudden you feel these like, oh, I have a boost of energy. If you feel that big boost immediately, that's a good sign. It's a safe sign to say, okay, I'm probably deficient in many
Well,
other things in my
that's a
diet.
good and a bad sign.
Correct. That's
Yep.
that I'm probably deficient. But I did actually see some research that has came out that when we talked about sleep, of making sure first thing in the morning that you're seeing that sun, and then you're also seeing the sunset because that's a circadian rhythm for our
Yep.
sleep cycle. I've also seen research now that that's also how we should be doing our meals. And so when our biggest meal of the day should be when the sun is at its peak.
Yep.
So then that will help then. And again, we're talking about eating at that certain time, but then that meal needs to also then be a really good fortified meal for us, meaning high in protein, your
Mm-hmm.
really good fats, your vegetables, your sugars.
Well, most people's biggest meal is at night,
Mm-hmm.
and that actually should be one of your smaller meals.
Right.
You still should have really good protein with that, but it shouldn't be your largest meal of the day. And there's other research that'll say that breakfast needs to be your highest protein containing meal, because it sets your body up for the rest of the day. I think that is a big thing to take in, or your first meal of the day should be super high in protein, because there's a lot of people out there that listen, including ourselves, that have intermittent fasted and it works very effectively for us. But that protein is a big deal. It has to be there to set the course. Those amino acids have to come in so your body can start building right away and working instead of literally liquefying smooth muscle.
I mean, and if you think about it, it's kind of like, well, does that pertain to me? Well, I think we can break this down. This is a whole different podcast. We can break it down into what stage of life that you're in.
Yes.
But it's also like, where is your physical activity coming within the day?
Yep.
And I think that's where we get and it can be so overwhelming. And it's overwhelming for us as well to stay on top of the research and the understanding. And now this new eating plan and when to fast and protein here, not here. But I think the biggest thing is to take it in baby steps.
Yeah, baby steps is key. And just small things, small additions, not subtractions, small additions in actually will help you, because as you add in, your body will naturally take away the things you don't need, which is really neat to see. And then step number 4, honestly, the best tip for all of this is getting your nervous system checked. It's chiropractic care. It's making sure that you're getting your body back to communicating exactly how it's meant to be. And that is above, down, inside out, making sure that brain has full communication to your body.
I mean, that's like we started this with talking about anxiousness and anxiety, ADHD, focus. And I mean, that's why we're really successful with those kids that have those triggers, or they're just going a mile a minute, because chiropractic allows you to finally take a moment and refocus. And that's where, when your brain is all over the place, and I had this conversation this morning with Michael, if he's listening, that the hesitation is when we are feeling so overwhelmed that we just want to be able to say, stop, that I can't do it. But the one thing that's absolutely vital is chiropractic, because that allows your brain to finally, okay, I get to pause and I get to slow down. And so that's what chiropractic does when we focus on function, that we get the nervous system, the brain talking to the body, and it gets to look inside and realize, hey, we're not on fire. We don't need to be running from something. And we can finally, turn the thermostat down, turn the speedometer down, that we get to finally relax and we get to chill. And that's what amazing chiropractic does. It keeps our body focused and functioning, but on the calm level that it can be super stable.
Well, calm is rest and digest instead of fight or flight. And when we're in fight or flight, we have neurotransmitters that stimulate our brain, overstimulate it for survival, versus calm, digesting, healing, which is actually the pathway that chiropractic works in nonstop. And, we had an email this morning, actually in practice, a patient messages us and says they're not feeling well, they're overwhelmed, their anxiety super, super high, didn't want to really come in today. And I messaged him back and just kind of let it be and said, hey, take some time to relax, figure your head out. But if you can get here, this will serve the purpose. They came in and they left and they messaged us from the parking lot. Hey, when I got out to the car, no BS, I'm breathing better. And that's a huge step for me. I know that I'm breathing better, therefore I'm calmer and things are just working better right now. And to be quite honest with you, there was zero osseous adjustment today on that patient. Zero. It was all tonal. It was pressure and holding. It was getting that nervous system balanced right within. And that is something we do on kids and adults and pregnancy.
And I think that's what makes it sometimes it feels magical or people are really like difficult. They can't explain it. But that's
Right.
also what makes it really cool because our kiddos get it. Like our youngest kiddos, like, because they can't put it into words, but they just know when they don't feel good or they're talking back to their parent or they're having that meltdown, it's usually the parent saying, like, yeah, they were saying that, you know, they needed to see you. They needed their pop, they needed their adjustment. And so the kids, again, you can't always put it into words, but once you understand how you feel after having good neurologically based chiropractic, it just like your body just knows what it needs.
It is just different.
Mhm.
And when we're doing it right and we're doing it often enough to make sure those frequencies are perfect so the body can actually stay in alignment and stay balanced, that's the key.
Yeah. And I
That
think
is
it's,
the key.
and that's a frequency because we get that a lot of like, well, why so often? Well, look at your lifestyle. Look at what's going on in your world.
You are constantly
Like,
being bombarded with stress.
absolutely.
Constantly.
And that's why it's the let's keep up on stuff rather than always being reactive and trying to fix the thing. If we can be proactive and know like, hey, this is the season that we're going into and tax season's coming up and all these different things. And that means, okay, then we need to make sure that we're on top of your body being at 100% function to be able to handle everything that's coming at it.
Chiropractic is where it's at. So sleep, huge. Nutrition, huge. Exercise, huge. But what ties all of that together is chiropractic care. It helps all of those. It helps you eat better. It helps you move better. And it helps you think and sleep better. Awesome
Live better.
episode, Dr. Julie. This was a good one. Say, everybody, Dr. Julie and I are on a mission to get to over 1,000 subscribers on our YouTube channel, get to this to over 1 million people this year if we can. If you can help us out in any way, please share this to as many people as you possibly can. Hit the like button, ring the bell, help us out. This helps everything and it helps our communities out. Dr. Julie, it's been such a pleasure again and, hanging out with Kermit the Frog here.
Perfect. And if you need anything, just pop it in the comments below or reach out. We have those guides, but we hope to see you next week for episode 319.
Bye, everyone.